Good morning, Grant. How are you?
Good morning, Carrie Ann. I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for being here today. Everybody, I would like to introduce you to Grant Lahn. Grant is on the team. He's been with the CACG group for how many years now, Grant?
Going on 3 years now. I'm super excited for it. It's been a blast, and I'm looking forward to another 3 years plus. So
Oh, so
it's
cool. So
it's been
cool.
yeah, no, it's been a blast. You've definitely helped me grow, learn a lot of things, and just really take my real estate career to the next level. It's been something to see. So
It's really, really fun to watch. So, how many years have you been licensed now, Grant?
So I've been licensed for about 4.5 years. I got my license in January of 2018. And I joined you the first of the year of 2020, so right before the pandemic. So that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was definitely a, kick in the butt, and we, nailed it down. So it's been fun.
Very, very cool. The reason I want to bring you on the show today, Grant, at your young age, I want you to share today on this podcast is about talking about what's going on in the market right now, the interpretation in the eyes of the media and what they're talking about versus what's actually happening, like what we're seeing, our perspective, your perspective. I want to start with you sharing your story because you have a super cool storyline when it comes to your family and their involvement in real estate. Like you come from a history, a family of realtors, and the industry is kind of embedded in your ecosystem.
It is. It is.
Mhm.
So my grandma was actually a realtor. It was kind of a second career after she retired from being a nurse at the VA for, 30, 40 years.
Mhm.
So she was out of the Roseville office. And then actually my dad does commercial real estate kind of as like a side gig almost to his consulting firm that he owns.
Cool.
Uh, so it's kind of been in my blood, and I've seen, my dad do it, and I've seen my grandma do it, and I've always kind of been interested in how in homes and running my own business. And I thought, why not try real estate? And it's been so much fun. And being only 25 years old and being in the business for 4.5, 5 years, I really had to dig deep and just really go after it. And it's been fun to see and fun to do. But I mean, the market right now, I think there's a lot of opportunities. The media right now is kind of spinning stuff that the market's going to crash, doom and gloom type of stuff, and
Mhm.
interest rates are insanely high. But I don't see that being the case. We're actually seeing multiple offers still on our listings. With them being priced right, staged right, things like that. And then also just on the buy side, you're actually being able to potentially get homes for under asking price, which is kind of unheard of for the last 2 years.
Right.
Um, so yes, interest rates might be a little higher than they were the last 2 years, but also, the purchase price is coming down to meet that monthly payment that the buyer's kind of looking for right now, in my opinion.
Let's talk about that a little bit because I think that's another interesting um, conversation that I don't think many agents are having with the audience when we talk about pricing going down versus what's going on with stabilization and what happened with multiple offers, pricing or pushing price points or sale prices up um, organically because of the supply demand.
Right.
It's really a conversation about supply and demand, not necessarily in a market correction, not that the market's going down. What do you think about that?
No, I totally agree with that. I mean, the market's not going down by any means. I mean, like I said, we're still seeing multiple offers when we have our own listings. And so prices aren't necessarily going down. They're more or less stabilizing to what buyers are able to afford now, I think, at this point.
Right.
Um,
That's
and
right.
and I think that what we're seeing for the next 3 to 5 years are all predictions, is that we're going to see more of a stabilized appreciation of homes. Your
Mhm.
typical maybe 3 to 8% or something like that. You're not going to see the crazy 35 to 17% increases that we have been seeing the last 2 years. So it's
Mhm.
not like the market's crashing or anything.
No,
It's
not
just
at all.
stabilizing. It's stabilizing itself the last 2 years, in my opinion. And I think you would agree we're an anomaly,
Mhm.
especially with interest rates being as low as they were. I don't think we'll ever see them that low, but we
No.
might. But I think, still 4.5%, 5% is still historically low considering all things.
So when you look at you're almost 5 years in the business now and your age, and we know that almost half of the market out there nationally and locally in our city, we're in the Twin Cities, is your age group up to about 32. We have a huge population of young buyers out there that have been in the rental pool for a much longer time than historically 10, 20 years ago, just because of the nature of saving, qualifying, school, debt, all those things, right? So when you're talking to your peeps, I always say to the team, the peeps, what's their take on real estate? Like, where's their mind hovering? And what would you want to share with anybody between the ages of 20 and 32?
Well, I would say that honestly, now is the best time to buy that I've seen in my 5 years of real estate. Just because I look at the last 2 years and the appreciation that's gone on, it's only going to continue to go up. I really believe that the market's going to continue to rise. You got to just jump in now. Rental prices are kind of crazy, crazy high. And if you're able to like get your own place, for 300, 400, 500,000, and you're only paying, 2,200 a month for your own space. I mean, why not do that?
Right.
You're not having to compete as much right now with other buyers. So you're not having to go 100K above asking price sometimes. So, I mean, it's really, really a good time to buy. And also, even if you have to do a little sweat equity, I think that would be a really good place to start, for some of these houses. And I can see people my age excited, to buy their first house.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I feel like the willingness to work, like meaning physically get involved with that process. I feel like over maybe an 8-year window, we had a lot of transaction work happening where people just did not want to be thinking or doing anything. For those starter homes, I'm seeing a lot more willingness to get involved and roll the sleeves up and be a part of a sweat equity opportunity, which I think is super cool and valuable during a time when the market is continuing to appreciate. Mm-hmm. And the components of when you look at design and build, that elevated price point, how much more expensive our real estate is in terms of the quality that you're getting and the cost to get a product. There's a lot of quality real estate out there that can be purchased, and you can go in and fractionally affect it aesthetically to create this beautiful home that's all yours and has value on the back end. So it becomes a discussion about wealth management as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I mean, like we talk about all the time in our meetings and to our clients, a little paint and some flooring and maybe some light fixture changes can really go a long way into a home. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that's a pretty cheap and effective way to just, like you said, totally change the aesthetic, get a little sweat equity involved, and, your house is just, that much more appreciated in a short period of time. So
absolutely. Absolutely. So you want to share with everybody, because you're playing in the world of investment too, counseling with people, meaning duplexes, fourplexes, rental homes. What's your take on that?
So I think, right. I mean, still, I think a lot of people are worried. Just they hear a lot, about how crazy the market is. And I'm like, I would say there's a lot of opportunities right now for people to, maybe get their first investment property. You could live in it for a year, get out of it and rent it out, and you've got a cash flow machine, so instead of, who wouldn't want to have an extra $2,500 a month just coming in every, not having to do anything.
Right.
So I still think it's a really good time to purchase. You're seeing more and more inventory coming on the market right now too for investments, duplexes, triplexes, quads, small apartment complexes, 6 to 12 units. And still, those are good opportunities, and maybe able to get those under asking price too. So it's still a really, really good time in the marketplace.
So share with everybody owner occupied investment opportunities, because it's a super cool thing. If you're an owner occupy, not only do you get a house, but you've got an equity builder and an investment all at the same time. You're working with a lot of our investment work right now. Explain to everybody how that works, down payment, configuration, and future casting. What is a 1031 exchange? Share with everybody that component.
Yeah, for sure. So like if you were to do a strict investment property, not actually live in it, you'd have to put 25% down just because there's more of a liability for the banks at this point.
Correct.
Just because you're not guaranteed to have renters in there all the time. So you need to, put down a huge chunk of change. But if you were to do the owner occupy, like Carrie Ann was talking about, you only really need to do that 3.5% if you wanted to do FHA, or you could do 3% or 5% down with conventional.
Yeah.
So you don't have to, throw down a huge chunk of change. You live in it for a year. You have a one tenant who's, offsetting maybe $1,500 to $2,000 of your mortgage every single month.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you can live in it for a year, but once you live in it for a year, you're able to rent that out, go purchase something else, and you can go purchase another investment property,
Super cool.
And take those funds out with the 1031 exchange, like Carrie Ann was talking about, which is a tax advantage way to take money out of a property and putting it into a like piece of real estate. And I believe you have like 180 days or 6 months to do that. And that's plenty of time to find and acquire your next property. So it's a really cool way to build your own wealth portfolio, your portfolio of real estate. That's something that I can see myself getting into here in the next ASAP, honestly. So
yeah, you're ready to go on that front. 1031 exchange coordination is super cool, and everybody on the team is licensed to do that, and we have the expertise to consult on that. I think that we're going to see a lot more. Your generation, I think we're going to see a lot of investment work come down the pipeline where they're very involved. They're not doing, a plethora of them, but just, having a small pool of investment opportunities in their back pocket locally that they can drive by. There's a lot of value in building wealth doing that. Not just your single family home, but additional rental opportunities. We're a big college town. Would you agree?
I would agree.
So anybody going into college right now, how awesome would that be to have a home or a duplex where you can collect 4 or 5 buddies, girlfriends, to all rent, and then you've got the mortgage covered and you've got a home and you're not on the dorm scene anymore. How cool would that be?
It is cool. And honestly, that's one of my investors is super into that aspect of rentals and investment work. He strictly buys in like the St. Kate's and St. Thomas area just because he knows how valuable those homes can be for those students. And I was actually one of those students, but I didn't go to St. Thomas, but I lived with some buddies who did go to St. Thomas, and we lived in a duplex. And it was super close to class, so they could, either walk to school or bike to school. We were obviously good tenants, and I think that most college students are good tenants. And who wouldn't want to, like I said, who wouldn't want to have an extra couple grand coming in every month that is coming in? You don't actually really need to work for it that hard, and it's just another way, like I said, to build wealth for yourself. So
very, very cool. So jumping back into first home buyer opportunities, what would be the best piece of advice you could give for those that are scared to start? What would you say to them?
Have conversations with people that you trust. So whether that be, you're the real estate agent that you have already used, if you want to reach out to one of us, and then also talk to like a lender too. Because I think if you talk to a lender who's been in the business a while, who's tapped into everything, I think that their speak or their different programs that they might have available to them for you to help get into the marketplace right now, I think would be very beneficial. Because you're that $300,000 house that was selling for $400,000 6 months ago, that might be like 330 now, or 325. So I mean, there's a lot of opportunity right now in the marketplace for a lot of people. So I think that it's the best time to buy, honestly. So
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And Chad Johnson, a lender in our office, we just did an interview that dropped on Thursday. We were talking about the differential due to the rates right now. It's not that bad. I mean, it's not that much of a difference. People interpret these rate shifts as something extraordinary, that's hitting their bottom line in a way that's no longer affordable. That's just not true at
right.
all. Chad's a great resource for having that conversation. Would you agree that most people are just afraid to start? So they think about and talk about it, but they just don't push the go button. The
Yeah,
power is in the knowledge. That's what I always say, right?
agreed. Well, and
Yeah.
I think fear can, stifle a lot of people and, stop them from doing a lot of different things. And like you said, knowledge is power. So I think if you can get that reassurance or that, the market is okay, it is a good time to buy, it is a good time to sell. I think that if you get that reassurance or that, that positivity involved in your world, I think that they'll, start to come around and actually realize, oh, it is a great market still.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. So, jumping a bit, how I know we get calls constantly, or we meet clients that say to us, "Oh, this seems like it's so much fun. I think I would love to sell real estate." And it's such an easy job. When people ask you, Grant, about your work and ask you about, "Oh, I'll do that part time," what would you say? How would you describe this business as a career? A. And
Yep.
then the second part of it is the beauty behind it, like what can happen in it and the growth opportunity, but the grit as well, the transparency and honesty behind what really goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people see like the selling sunset or now the selling OC or whatever that's going on right now. And
Yeah.
if you actually watch those shows and you're a real estate agent, you realize that that's not actually what real estate is. You're not just going around having parties all the time. Um, it takes, like I said, it takes a lot of grit, and it's not as glamorous as everybody says. You're up at 5 a.m. Because your brain's going, and you're like, crap, I have like all these things that I have to do. I've got to make 20 calls today to these people, and I've got a closing. I've got 20, I've got tooth showings with two different people. And so it's just like, it's an all day adventure. I mean, you can ask my friends, you can ask, anybody that's around me. I'm constantly on my phone, whether it be just answering text messages, answering phone calls, emails, checking the MLS. It really is a 24/7 endeavor. But like you said, the opportunities and the growth that can come from this, I mean, your income potential is not capped, right? So you kind of eat what you kill. And so it kind of gives you a nice little motivation, kick in the butt every once in a while if you're
Right.
not doing enough. So it's fun. I mean, it is fun, but it's a lot of hard work, and it is gritty. I mean, you have to kind of dig deep, and you can't surface dwell, as you would say.
No surface dwelling allowed.
you're gonna have to deep dive and be uncomfortable. And I think being uncomfortable is a great place, because if you are too comfortable, you're not growing. And if you want to go someplace that you're not at right now, the only way to get there is by, being uncomfortable. Right.
That's the
So
truth. I think that's the biggest challenge out there for anybody. And that can be in any industry, any job, regardless of what kind of obstacle is in front of any human being. Being willing to be uncomfortable to grow is a requirement.
it is.
You're just stagnant, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
So
agree.
you've grown a lot in 3 years in personal, and that's an age thing too, right? Like when we transform and or we're maturing through our 20s, so leaving school, if you decide go down that path and starting a career, whatever that might be, from 20 to 25, from 25 to 30, and watching not only yourself grow, but your friends around you, what would you tell or share with any mid 20-year-old about honoring the obstacles and embracing the growth? Like a little PMA.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think it's important to feel that. Chad, speaking of Chad, he sent us a little email here the other day, sometime this week, that talked about good stress and bad stress.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that good stress that he talked about, or that was in that email, is important, because it does motivate you. It does change you a little bit, and I think that the more that you can live in that state, the more comfortable you get with being uncomfortable,
Right.
and the more that you just don't care about that feeling. It's just another part of the day, right? It's just a part of who you are.
Right.
And it it just becomes natural, just to dig deep. And because it's hard to be broke, or it's hard to be, just not motivated, right? But it's also hard to do all these things. So it's a matter of like choosing your heart, right? And I've heard a lot about that in the last few months, with our Tom Ferry Summit and everything like that, so it's doing the work. And it doesn't matter what job, you're doing, like you said, or if you're in school, if you're, in a sport or something like that, you always wonder what these people are doing to be at the top of their level. Well, they're there at 6 a.m., shooting an extra basket, or making an extra call, or, doing one more, and that's the power. I think the
Right.
power of one more, it's, do I want to make this call today? The power of one more. I can make one more call, and that one more call might lead to 20 opportunities, right? So I think that that's a very powerful thing, the power of one more.
Power of one more. I'm hearing a lot of coaching speak in there. Would you agree that everyone, whatever they do at any point in their life, having a mentor and coach is massive?
100%.
Massive. Yeah.
100%.
Everyone should have one.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, my dad has a mentor. So his business partner, who he, has worked with now for the past 30 years, he started his company, and now my dad purchased it from him, and, was with him for 30 years. That's his mentor. My uncle had a mentor in his occupation, which was being a superintendent principal in the schools, so
Okay.
he had a mentor.
Cool.
Who was a superintendent, who was at one point, who was a principal at one point. So it's finding somebody that you can, see yourself being someday, or somebody that you can relate with, who might be a little older than you, or maybe in the career a little bit longer than you, and just learn from them, because obviously, like, if they're successful, they're obviously doing something right. And not necessarily you have to do it the exact same way, but find something that they do that you can do, but spin it into your own way.
Totally. Yeah. That's where I've seen the most growth in you, is the willingness to receive and grow, and allow yourself to, because we have lots of different coaching and mentor opportunities, right?
Yes.
It's not coming from just me, certainly not. And Tom Ferry, Janet Miller is our coach. She's extraordinary. We've had some amazing coaching opportunities and learning opportunities through the Tom Ferry ecosystem. But in those opportunities, when you do that, there's an opportunity to meet more people. And those people, there's always that nugget, I say to the team, that nugget, that learning moment that resonates. And everybody's version of that is different. It's not the same thing for everybody.
Or hopefully not anyways, right?
Well, I think everybody learns something unique to them because of their personality. And that's what I've seen, and why I wanted you on the program, because you're a perfect example of what I see as a huge population of personalities, people in our environment now. And I thought maybe your shares would be inspirational in sharing not only your experience in this business, but as a young person, I'm navigating what everyone's eventually going to do, which is build a home. Right. That flying the coop thing is real, especially for your generation. I'm finding you guys have really had a different reality check with COVID. The ways of the world, right? Things are just different. And they have been over the last 5 years in comparison to 10, 15, 20 years and beyond. The stressors, if you will, that we're being pelleted with are different. The conversations, both locally and globally, are different kinds of conversations. And that might be a way to kind of segue into the next session of our conversation, is what is your interpretation of that when you talk to your buddies? And is it a holdback in terms of growth for that age group in terms of delving into the next step, meaning a home, family, that whole scene?
Yeah, I would say a lot of my friends we're kind of all spread out in different stages of our lives. You know, I've got a few buddies who are engaged. I've got a few buddies who are married. I've got a few buddies who are single, you know, so we're kind of all spread across the board. But I would say most people right now, you know, they do get distracted, you know, by social media and all that stuff. And maybe home buying isn't on the first, you know, priority list at this point, you know. But I think that if you have, you know, conversations with people and you hear the right type of things, that, you know, maybe it is a time to buy. Just don't worry about, you know, everything else that's going on in the
Right.
world right now, and just kind of put
Yeah.
your blinders on, you know. And I think that the more that people hear of the bad, that's what they focus on, right? You know, and so it's just tune that stuff out. And I know that it's super hard. I'm guilty of it. You know, I'm on social media and I hear all the, you know, I hear everything, right? And
Right.
no matter what side of the coin you're on, it's annoying to hear sometimes, you know. So it's just tuning that out, being present in the moment, you know. Just go hang out with your friends and, you know, go on the golf course or go have a walk or something, and you'd be
Right.
surprised by how much calmer you feel, and just when you're not constantly surrounded by just the negativity, because I feel like that's what it is. You know, it's never positive. You're not seeing a lot of positivity. It's always negativity, and, you know, it's not fun to live in that space.
Right. And I think it effectively has changed how people process and make decisions.
Yep.
So the,
Fear-based. It's a
yeah,
lot of
absolutely.
fear-based, a lot of emotional,
Right.
just there, and I'm guilty of it too. You know, it's, you get those emotional based decisions that may not be the best decisions in the long run, but to you in that moment feels right,
Right.
right? So it's maybe taking 5 minutes or taking a day or taking whatever, you know, it takes for you to compartmentalize everything, really analyze what's going on, and then make the decision. You know, I
Absolutely.
know it's hard, right? I know it's hard. So
Yeah, it is hard. And I think that maturity, right? So maturity is a real thing in
mhm,
every section of life as we learn and we're exposed to stress and positives and experiences. As we now, I'm 53 years old. I mean, I could be Grant's mother. I'm just, there's a huge 25, you know, over 2 decades of difference of maturity, right?
right.
So how you interpret the distraction and the media and the news. I just was having this conversation yesterday. Um, Embrace what you can manage and control, and embrace the home, embrace the grounding, the rooting, the family, because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you can effectively, as an independent individual, you can only control rights in what's in front of you, your mindset and your
Yep.
environment, right?
Yep. Yep.
If you can focus on that, the rest of it is more manageable because you're grounded as
Agreed.
a person.
Agreed. Well, and having that like safe space, you know,
Mhm.
to come home to every single day that you know is yours, right? You know, nothing's gonna happen. You know, it's just like, this is my space. I can come and unwind. I can, you know, just watch a sporting event or
Right.
whatever you like to do, read a book, you know, whatever is your cup of tea. You know, you're able to go home and just relax, because I feel like that's what is missing right now from a lot of people, is just that like relax, you know, just like that ease feeling. You know, I think that
Mhm.
there's just a lot of run, 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 go, go, go. And if you can come home to like a nice peaceful environment, I think that that's super helpful to everybody's well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. Great words to end on. Grant, I'm so glad that we decided to do an interview together because there's some real valuable shares there. Most importantly, flying the coop, the whole
Yep.
basis of this show. You and your peeps are in a perfect place in life to take ownership of that. And Grant's your man in terms of navigating that first step, that first move. So everybody, Grant Lane on the CACG team, works the Twin City market, loves the city. Minneapolis is kind of your grounding like, you know, Minneapolis, you know it
Yep.
really, really well.
Yep, I live
So
uptown and
yeah,
really love uptown, love the lakes area. You know, I'm able to do my walks or rollerblades around Lake of the Isles, Lake Calhoun. Uptown's coming back. I mean, it's really nice to see everybody out and about.
yeah,
New buildings being built, so it's really vibrant now.
yeah.
So it's fun to see.
Yeah, it just goes to show you healing can happen and recovery can happen no matter how difficult things get. There's always a recovery on the back end of that, front end of that. There's always a thumbs up. At some point, there is a recovery. So,
It takes time sometimes.
uh-huh. So cool. Grant, thank you so much for some time today here. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Carrie Ann. It was an absolute blast.
Yeah, cool beans. Talk soon.
Alrighty, peace.
Okay, bye.